If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this.
People who caught your SO physically cheating on you. What is your reaction? My boyfriend and I were hanging out at our apartment and some girl came over. He'd met her on Craigslist looking for a friend. A bit weird, but okay. Talked to her a bit, then went to bed. I thought I heard her leave not long after that. At 4:20 a.m., the cats came in bitching about something and woke me up. I figured, what the hell, I'm kinda thirsty, so I got up and went to the kitchen to get some water. They were in the front room kissing. In disbelief and shock, we'd been together nearly 5 years. I made a racket getting a drink of water. They quickly separated and pretended they'd been talking. I went back to the bedroom, and waited a few minutes. Should I confront him? How? A few minutes passed, and she didn't leave. So I confronted him. It's 4 in the morning. I said. Oh, she doesn't have a car and the buses aren't running. So you can drive her home then. I'm too drunk to drive. See? Are my eyes shut? Everything is fuzzy. I just can't tell. And he sat there, looking at me with his eyes wide open. It sure didn't look fuzzy to me when I saw you kissing her. I said. I wanted to scream at him, but his kid from an ex was visiting and was sleeping on the couch. She'll go home when the buses run again. He said. I went to the bedroom and cried for a bit. Then I called my mother and told her I was moving back home. After a while he came back in and asked if he could sleep in the bed. Since it was either that or out front with the whore, I said yes. I moved my stuff into my car while he was sleeping. When he woke up, he asked if I was leaving. Take her home and we'll talk about it. I said. If you're leaving, why haven't you packed up your stuff? I have. But I can't get to the Xbox when she's sleeping in front of it. So I'll move her to the bed. Excuse me. You're leaving. So why should she? And so then I had to spend several hours in her company being civil because his kid woke up, and move out while she was there. What was worse was the whole time I was moving out he was so paranoid that I would take something that was his. Are those my pills? No. They're mine. Hold on. What game is that? It's the game I paid for. But you bought it for me. I did not. I bought it and you started playing it. This was only a month or so ago. I'm still in the process of getting my name off the lease. I know this will never get read, but it feels good to vent. I was 18 years old and had been with my boyfriend for 6 months. He was my world. I was madly in love and of course I thought we would be high school sweethearts forever and ever. So we go to a girl's birthday party and we're all having a good time. I've never been a drinker, so I'm hanging out looking after my drunk girlfriends. I can't find my dude, so I go with my best friend looking for him. Open the door of the bedroom of the girl whose party it was, to find them fucking. Of course. They didn't notice us. Walk into another room with my best friend and discuss this issue. I decided to go for the metaphorical jugular. I went and found her dad. He burst in the door, saw exactly what I did and lost his shit. My then ex-boyfriend got a hit to the head and was literally thrown out in his underwear. The party was over after that, everyone had to leave, she wasn't allowed to see him anymore and wasn't allowed to go to parties for months afterwards. I dumped him the next day. He'd taken off after being thrown out, and of course, he blamed me for the trouble he was in because I told her dad, who got hold of his conservative Christian mother, who grounded him too. I was on cloud 9 knowing I'd caused the both of them so much misery. Was dating a guy for almost a year and just found out I was pregnant. We had planned to have lunch together at his house but morning sickness had kicked in so I told him I would have to wait till dinner time. He sounded super disappointed so an hour later I felt well enough to surprise him with a sub for lunch. When I got to his house I found the door wide open so I walked in. As I opened his bedroom door I found him in bed with 2 girls. Pissed off, I tossed the sub at him, called him some choice words and ran out the door. He follows me and tries to get me to calm down. I tell him I'm done and want to leave, but he begs me to hear him out, claiming he has a good reason for what he was doing. He then tells me the biggest crock of poo I have ever heard in my life. He tells me that he dated this girl before me for a short time. Being a Middle Eastern girl, she was very set on the no-sex rule before marriage for fear of what her family would do to her. However, one night they ended up sleeping together anyway and he broke her cherry. Pan forward to the present, she calls him in a panic saying her life was in danger. She tells him she was going on a trip overseas soon to see family, and for fear of being stoned to death she begged him to meet her parents and claim they had married secretly to save her. His next words were the craziest part of my story. So if I don't keep sleeping with her, they will stone her to death. The other girl was just her sister, making sure it was legit. Do you get it now? I am saving this woman's life. I just turned around and walked away. Almost 8 years later and I still can't tell this story without giving him some props for creativity. Kills me to do so, but even I could not have told that line of crap as straight-faced as he did. I found my ex-boyfriend in the same bed with my ex-best friend. I was supposed to be at work, but they said they needed to cut hours and let me go home early. Wanting to surprise my boyfriend, I stopped at his house with some tacos and beer. I noticed my best friend's car in the parking lot, but I didn't really think much of it because they were friends and we all hung out from time to time. He had given me a key to his house a week earlier, with the instructions to just stop by and let myself in. So that's exactly what I did. Found them on his bed in the living room. Yeah, he was weird, kept his bed in the living room, naked, sweaty and clearly just finished sexy times. I freak and yell. He says they had gotten drunk the night before and rather than drive home, she crashed there. Would have been cool, if it weren't for the fact both were butt-ass naked. I looked at her, told her we had been friends since 7th grade, and that I deserved the truth. She said they fucked and had been fucking for several months at that point. I threw the tacos and beer at my ex-boyfriend, grabbed a garbage bag and packed up whatever crap I had left at his house before. I hadn't spoken to him since then. I decided to forgive my friend. We had been best friends for far too long, but then I found out she was fucking with my next boyfriend, and I wrote her off as a slutty whorebag. She still tries to talk to me occasionally, but I tell her to fuck off every time. I used to live with my ex of 2 years and his 3 friends in a large party house. The parties were getting pretty old to me, having lived there for a year, and I went to bed early. I don't know how long I was asleep for, but I woke up to pee. When I walked out of the bedroom I heard strange noises. All I could think was, which one of these guys is soiling my leather couch this time? I walked out there and it was my boyfriend fucking a self-proclaimed druggy slut from his restaurant job, red, dirty waitress whore. They didn't see me. I went back to bed and cried quietly. The next morning I woke up to him next to me. I walked into the living room and she was gone, leaving only the blanket in a post-coital heap on the floor. I didn't tell him I knew or saw. I had been suspicious of his behavior, but seeing is believing, and it was the ultimate pain. The next time I had the house to myself I called some friends, packed whatever I could fit into my truck, and left. I stayed at a friend's only a few blocks away instead of going to my family's house where he might look for me. From what I later heard, he came home with the whole party from the bar. They all walked in and it took them several minutes to register that most of my things were missing. I left the couches. Embarrassed, he called my mother's house all night in a drunken rage, threatening us. She reported it. The next morning I called his mother, a doctor, and said, "Your son has a serious drug and alcohol problem you might want to address. And thanks for teaching me how to drive. Have a good one." It hurt, but was obviously liberating when the clouds cleared. I had been dating my boyfriend for 2 years back in college. We had gone our separate ways to party for the night, but we were both leaving our respective parties. I stopped by his house on the way home to see if he wanted company. I pull up to his driveway at the same time his roommate pulls up. He, his roommate, and a girl jump out of the car. I'm thinking the girl came home with his roommate because they head inside the house together. My BF comes over, gives me a huge hug and a kiss and says that he's just going to pass out so I should head on home. I lived 5 minutes away. A little put off, I go home and awaken to a phone call early in the morning. My BF's sister was having her baby and his family cannot get a hold of him to get to the hospital. Can I, please, go get him out of bed? I drive to his house and the front door was unlocked. I creep into his bedroom to gently awaken him with the good news. I am greeted by the girl from the night before, straddling him as they kiss. When he sees me, he throws her off of him and jumps up. The rest of my memory from the event is patchy as a blind, red rage kicked in. We meet halfway across the room as my fist connects to his face. I chase him out of the house wildly hitting, kicking, and cursing. I'm not proud of this burst of violence. Eventually I confront the girl and she tells me what happened. Their coworkers got drunk, fucked around. The most deceptive part is the big kiss he gave me the night before, after he had been going at it with her at a party all night and planned to go to bed with her. I consider that relationship the most formative mistake of my life. So boyfriend and I were living together for about 3 months. We both had holiday parties the same night and I knew a couple of his coworkers would be hammered and staying over. I even set up the sofa with blankets. I come home around 3 a.m., they are already passed out, lights off. I walk into the master bath to change before jumping into bed. Once in bed, I go to touch my boyfriend's arm and it is clearly not his. I jump out of bed and see a girl in her bra and underwear laying on his side and he is passed out on the floor in his boxers. I proceed to try to wake him up to rip him a new $1 hole, but of course his blood sugar is low, he has type 1 diabetes and is almost in a diabetic coma. The girl is so wasted she's still passed out. So I grab a glass of OJ and I'm trying to lift his head to make him drink it. That's when she decides to half wake up and says to me, "Oh thanks, I didn't even know he was sick." Then to him while she caresses the back of his head, "Come on baby, you need to drink this." Now this is the part where I'd instinctively beat the shish tea out of her, but there were more pressing issues at the moment. Also, I was a little in shock so I went outside to call my friend while I was waiting for the OJ to kick in. Unfortunately, they were so hammered, they both passed out again and wouldn't wake up. I decided to sleep in his son's room on the floor until they woke up. Side note, I was nice enough to get a 2BR with him so his 1-year-old could have his own room. I wake up at 7 a.m. and everyone is still passed out, except he made his way back into bed from the floor. So of course I take a picture of him and this whore in my bed and immediately post it to his FB page so all his family, friends, and coworkers can see. 8 a.m. rolls around and I hear everyone waking up. He proceeds to come into his son's room and tell me nothing happened, blah blah blah. I know him too well to know what happens when he gets that drunk. Oh, and you're welcome for saving your life once again, mother-dollar and a I go out to the living room and this girl is still on my sofa. I bitch her out and throw her cheap Jessica Simpson shoes out my door with her to follow. Obviously she didn't know about me and it was him I was after. Once they all leave for work, I call my friend who helps me move all my furniture into storage. Me ex comes home to an empty apartment with only his 50 inches flat screen on the floor since every piece of furniture was mine. By the time he sees my FB post, it's been up for 4 hours and everyone knows what he did. And I'm not one to air anyone's personal laundry on FB, but I felt it was justified and definitely made me feel better. I caught him cheating, but not red-handed. I had known something was up for a while and collected my proof. I confronted him and got a little crazy. We had been together 6 years. Common law marriage in other states. The girl was about 18 where he was 27. She lived up north and they communicated through text and phone. He said it was his cousin and a fake Facebook he made up. Anywho. He's an unemployed bum battling addiction at this time, so I decide to live with my sister and let him run out the lease on our apartment which I paid for. I needed something from the app one day and headed over. The chain is on the door and he won't let me in. She's there. Living. My apartment. Sleeping in my bed. Petting my goddamn cats. I lose my shit a little and call the cops. His name is on the lease, too, so they can't help me. A few days passed. I asked my sister to come with me. I'm getting my stuff. I went in the early afternoon. They're both lazy fucks, so I assumed they were asleep. I opened the door, chain is still on, but there's no sound or movement. Yep. Asleep. I know the hardware on the chain and just popped it off with a screwdriver. My sister and I systematically and quietly grabbed all my stuff. TV, Xbox, cats, dishes, modem, router, anything we could fit in the car. Finally, just to be an ass, I snuck in the bedroom and ripped the blankets. My blankets. Off of both of them. My ex tried to get gruff and follow me out the door, but stopped dead when he saw the TV was gone. The sound of astonishment was priceless. If I could go back, I would have handled it differently, but crazy me is satisfied. My roommate, a girl I had been seeing for 2 months, and I all took MDMA at a party we were throwing. She started to feel overwhelmed and a little freaked out, so I was comforting her for a good portion of the night. I then let my roommate take care of her while I checked on the party. I went into his room to make sure she was all right. I then went back out to the party. 10 minutes later I came back to his room to make sure she was still alright and they were both naked fucking with the lights on. That image was burned into my retinas and it was all I could think about for the rest of the night. I also ended up being the only person to sleep alone that night and it was a very lonely night for me. The best part is that my roommate came into the bathroom after having sex with her and told me that he was very sorry and felt really bad about it. After he left the bathroom he went back into his room and fucked her again. I was incredibly mad and depressed for the next couple of days because I had such low levels of serotonin left due to the Molly. This happened exactly a week ago and they have fucked multiple times since that night even though they know how it makes me feel.